What's up, famo? It's Dano, and we back for some more. As always, got the links to the socials down here on the screen below. You guys can tap in with me, get in touch with me anyway. Also got the sub count up here. Continue running this number up. We're at 42 right now. Let's go ahead and push me up to 50, and I really appreciate it. It's free. It's free, guys. It's free. But today, we're going to be doing Jordan Peterson, and I believe this video is going to be on NoFap and getting out of the habit of watching adult content, which is you guys can see in the title here, Jordan Peterson, stop playing with yourself. This is beyond exceptional channel. You guys go check them out, give them a like and comment and tap in, subscribe with them. As always, there will be a link to the original video in the description down below. But let's get into it, guys. I really enjoyed Jordan Peterson last time. He gives some great advice, man, and he really is somebody I recommend you guys listening to in your own spare time, even when it's not just with me. So let's get into it, guys.
Give to someone looking to quit porn, I would say it isn't that you're trying to quit porn. It's not the right way to think about it. The right way to think
gotta add boys, we're back.
It's not the right way to think about it. The right way to think about it is that you're trying to figure out how to have a better life.
In today's video, Jordan Peterson talks about porn,
full screen. Bang.
why it is bad for you, and how to quit it. Stick around to the end for Jordan's non-mainstream practical advice to quit porn for good. This one's life-changing, so pay attention.
There might be codicils to that, freedom of expression, some potential educational utility, the pleasure that's a consequence of sexual utilization of pornographic material. But I would still say, seeing all that it's not a net social good. It doesn't do the people who produce it or who consume it any good. And I don't believe that anyone feels like a better human being after utilizing pornography for sexual gratification. Now, you might say, well, that's because they've been shamed about sex since they're born. And, and that's a consequence of our crooked culture. And, in a utopian world, we wouldn't have that shame. And it's way more complicated than that. I read something in one of the YouTube comments in my video the other day. I was talking to Abigail Schreier about the apparent fact that today's teenagers are having much less sex. One person commented that there's the shame that men feel when sex is a spectator sport rather than a participatory act. And then you think, well,
Guys, forget spectating. I'm trying to always be a part of the act. Always. Since I was in high school, bro.
mere fact that you're watching two other people, one of whom isn't you, having sex, instead of having sex, it implies something about your desirability. It's pretty hard to shake that, isn't it? Or your courage. Why is it that you're sitting there alone at night with your laptop on your lap? What the hell's wrong with you? Well, nothing. It's just we should dispense with sexual shame. It's like, no, probably not. That's probably not the answer. Well, it's like Treasure Island in Pinocchio. It's all pleasure with no responsibility. That's deadening. It's parasitical in a sense. And I'm not making a value judgment. I mean, it's no wonder the young guys are caught up in this because it's an unbelievably powerful technology. It drove the development of the internet, let's not forget, right? So it taps into one viciously primordial motivation. And so these guys are being blasted by what biologists call super stimuli all the time. So imagine that there's a biological stimulus that has an effect on you, and then you can magnify it. And the typical porn actress, not the amateurs, but the professionals, have their sexually provocative physical elements exaggerated. And so men are very visual in terms of their sexual processing. And so the guys are pulled into it, and they're pulled into it also by curiosity. But I think that ethically it's not good. It's not good. It's an easy out. That's the other thing. What you should be doing is going out and finding someone to have a relationship with. But let's say you can't find someone. Well, then you might say that's an indication you should change. It is, in fact, an indication that you should change. Because what better indication are you going to get than that no one wants to be intimate with you? It's the ultimate rejection, and that's partly why men are terrified of it, and I understand that. And
I don't feel like you got to look for a relationship to have sex, but I feel like what he's saying is true. You can't really use the instant gratification of adult content to just get off. Like he said, there's no repercussions to it. It's just a mindless stimulus to the brain. So it technically isn't helping you, and it could be a very a desirable thing, but in the long run, it's not helping anything. It's just a dopamine rush. It's kind of the same thing as a drug is what I'm getting. He's saying, but one thing I necessarily don't agree with is how he's saying how much we shame sex. Because if you look, there's women making millions of dollars off OnlyFans and showing their body and off of OF and different things, showing their body and just making crazy money. So I think the stigma around sex has changed a lot in the recent years, but it also is still very hush hush. People don't like talking about it. So I get where he's coming from.
And I understand the ultimate rejection, and that's partly why men are terrified of it, and I understand that. And I understand the MGTOW guys, you know, who are recommending that men don't enter into long-term permanent relationships with women. I understand where they're coming from. Well, they're providing a lot of young guys who need a kick to go out there.
Right, they're actually giving them the back door.
They're giving them a rationale, yeah, and I've seen this have very detrimental effects on a number of people already, and partly in my clinical practice, because
I need to listen what he's talking about, guys. I'm not going to lie, because this applies to me. I'm one of the people that does not believe in long-term relationships. I personally was in one myself, and it didn't turn out too well. 6 years down the drain. And it's just one of those things. As a man, once we go through that, you kind of change your mindset and your mentality on women, and you realize that, for me at least, it was finding that love I gave another woman in myself and making sure I always reflected that to be a better person, and always made sure that I was loving myself the same way that I love somebody else. So I get what he's saying. But I kind of want to hear his opinion on the negatives of it.
the young guys who effects on a number of people already, and partly in my clinical practice, because the young guys who aren't successful, they're looking for a reason why women are terrible, because otherwise they have to think, well, they're just not presentable, which is what they do have to think, because that's almost the definition of presentable. And then the MGTOW guys give them a rationale. You know, we are in a gynocentric world and females have got control, and they'll like wipe you out if they have the opportunity. It's like some females will do that to some guys some of the time, and sometimes it's brutal. I've had clients who've been dragged through the court systems and just ruined, and I was unable to help them. I did everything I could to maneuver and negotiate and plan and strategize so carefully to get them to do everything right, and it didn't help. I mean, the court systems can be absolutely brutal to men. It's awful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So the guys that are taking the easy out on that.
It's not just the court system, guys. It's the world. Nobody cares about men. I've said this over a very long time in my life. Nobody cares about men. They just say they do so they feel like they're contributing, but deep down, nobody truly cares about men. We have to pick ourselves up every day. We have to be the ones to go out and get it and hustle and go to work. And as a man, if you're depressed, people are kind of like, so what? Grow up, get out there, do something about it. It's a little different. It's a stigma.
So to speak, and disconnecting from having those relationships. In a way, it's the same, it's just a different out that porn is replacing for that human connection too.
There's a novelty edge in pornography, like there is in so many quasi-addictive phenomena. Because novelty is a sexual kick, it has to stay novel, and that means that over time it's going to become more extreme. So that's not good. Well, so how do you resensitize yourself in some sense? Well, you stop. You stop. And then hopefully you recover. And then you deprive yourself of that outlet, let's say. And you might say, well, you know, is that absolutely necessary? And maybe there's nothing wrong with pornography. It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, have you ever really met a guy who is proud of that? Like, you know what I mean? That makes him feel like, I'm the guy, man. You know, I'm watching pornography and getting off. What a man.
I'm not gonna lie, that's one thing humans do not talk about is pornography and masturbation. I feel like that's just not. That's like people with their credit scores, bro. People don't talk about their credit scores. Certain people won't talk about certain things, but I feel like people are very secretive about adult content as well as masturbation. It's just there's something that people don't talk about as humans. We have a mutual respect that everybody does it, but we're not going to talk about it.
I don't believe anyone feels that. And to me, that's an indication that, yeah, we know. No, it's pretty cheap. It's cheap. It's easy. You know, I say that knowing that I believe the research evidence shows that if you introduce pornography into a community, that rates of sexual crime committed by men upon women actually decline. So there is perhaps some utility in the outlet. But, you know, that's a unidimensional analysis and doesn't take into account all the other effects of pornography.
Got to weigh the pros and
including the ones you
cons.
described, and I think that those are real. It makes sense that they're real, you know, because it's super satiation. It's a non-trivial technological problem. You know, it's now possible for young men to look at more beautiful nude women in one day than any man has ever seen, you know, prior to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, than any man in history had ever seen. That's not nothing. That's something. And to think that doesn't do anything to you, it's like, no, that likely does something to you. So don't substitute the false for the real, and don't underestimate the utility of deprivation.
What advice would you give to someone looking to quit porn? Well, I gave some advice a little earlier about quitting alcohol, you know, and I would say it isn't that you're trying to quit porn. It's not the right way to think about it. The right way to think about it is that you're trying to figure out how to have a better life. And so you have to figure out, well, I would say...
Yeah, man, that's true. And he makes it sound so simple with that. And it does. It sounds very, very simple, guys. Like, any vice you're dealing with, anything that's negative in your life, anything, you shouldn't look at it as, oh, I have to quit. You should look at it as, my life ultimately will probably be better if I do quit this and continue on doing more progressive things with my time. And I've personally seen that in my life recently with quitting marijuana and alcohol. It does. It makes you more proactive. It makes you more goal oriented. It just overall makes you strive, because you don't have something to dwell out the dead time. You don't have something to dwell out the thoughts you don't want to deal with. You just deal with them and you keep it pushing. And I've definitely kind of experienced that firsthand. So what he's saying there is very true.
Do the future to have a better life. And so you have to figure out, well, I would say do the future authoring program and keep your porn addiction in mind and think. So in the first part of the future authoring program, it asks you a bunch of questions about what your life could be like in 3 to 5 years if you took care of yourself, like you were someone that you cared for. Then it asks you questions about your friends and your family and your career and your time outside of work and your health and, you know, the important dimensions of life. And it asks you to spend 20 minutes writing about how good your life could be in 3 to 5 years if you got your act together and did what was good for you. And then it asks you to write about the hell you could be in if you didn't. And so I would say you really need to do that, because porn isn't the issue. The issue is that you're not living your life the way you want to. And so you need a vision of life that's more compelling than the porn. And you need a counter vision too that frightens you, you know, because otherwise porn is obviously extraordinary.
I want to pause on that note right there, because something he just said that I feel is really easy to do is to believe you have a vision, and to believe that that vision is here and you can see the vision. You know how to get there. You know, okay, if I gave this up, I could get there. If I gave this up, I could get there. If I worked a little bit harder today, I could get there. Maybe if I did this today, it would happen faster. It would be any progressive steps to go towards that. But nobody ever weighs out the options if they continue to do what they're doing. They just weigh out what it could be, because it's easier to make excuses than it is to actually face reality. And that just comes down to accountability. And there's not a lot of accountability in my generation, at least, and with humans in general. So that's real. And that's a great way to put that, is to also not just look at how your life could turn out without it, but look at how your life will turn out if you continue to do the same things. I like that a lot. Oh, whoops.
Gratifies you, you know, because otherwise porn is obviously extraordinarily gratifying in the short term, but you seem to be suffering from the medium to long-term consequences of its use. And so you need a story that you can tell yourself that's really deeply thought through about why this is not appropriate for you, how it's hurting you, and how it's minimizing you and perhaps making you embarrassed and ashamed and more socially isolated and all of that. So I would say think about it as cleaning up your psyche and your behavior rather than merely stopping porn. You also might want to write down, and you could do this in the negative vision part of the future authoring program. You got to write down everything bad that you think porn is doing to you, because obviously you have some suspicions that this is not good for you, right? That it's actually harming you in some important way. And so you need to be fully cognizant of what these ways are.
What was on that guy's face?
Take them seriously and decide if that's the pathway through life on which you wish to travel. And so, and then I would also say good luck to you. You know, it's a very good idea to identify one of your weaknesses and work on it. You can strengthen yourself substantially by doing that.
If you think Jordan's advice is helpful,
Bang. Yeah, guys, I like that. I'm not gonna lie. And what he said towards the end right there is very, very, very important. We as men, we as humans, we as anybody, you have to identify any weakness you have and cut it out. Cut it out. Any weakness, get rid of it. Anything it may be, get rid of it. It is holding you back from the life you want, and it's holding you back from the life that you deserve and that you really need. And that's real. Something else I've been doing recently, actually, in my own personal life, is anytime I'm making a decision, I do sit down and I take a book and I weigh out my pros, I weigh out my cons, and then you balancing act the two, and you figure out if it's really worth it. The negative that comes with it, is it worth the negative that comes with it to achieve the positives? And is the positives that you're gonna get, is that good enough to account also for the negatives that it will bring into your life? So I really, really like that video right there. And not so much just about quitting the adult content and stuff, but it's deeper than that, what he's talking about. I like that a lot, guys. We're going to keep on adding Jordan to the channel, man. I love it to death. He's motivation to me. I really appreciate the recommendation. As always, my socials are on the screen right here. Bang, bang, bang. We got the sub count up here. As always, continue to help me, run me up. It's subscribe is free, guys, but it means way more than money. Even would mean to me to see this number right here going up. It means more than money. I just want a good community of people we can all get together, react, and talk about stuff and better ourselves every single day. So if you guys haven't, please like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Anybody want anything reacted to, leave it in the comments down below, guys. I'm reading comments constantly. Anything you think would be interesting, anything you want to see on the channel, throw it in the comments down